TC, transitioning to retirement. Are you planning to retire in 2023? Tell me right frickin' now.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
You're giving me your 2 weeks notice? If you're giving me your 2 weeks notice, I presume you've already called Steve Cordasco.
Of course I have.
And John Walker.
He's helping me out.
That's what I'm fearing. And the Cordasco team at Mercer Advisors, because they can guide you through this important transition in your life and create a tailored financial plan so that you can enjoy your retirement with the comfort and confidence that your hard-earned savings provide for your lifestyle. Don't make this important transition without a plan. Call my friend Steve Cordasco. Do it now. 855-558-3500. Schedule a free consultation. 855-558-3500. Cordasco Financial Network. That's a trade name owned by Mercer Global Advisors, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Securities are offered through Andrew Garrett Inc., not affiliated with Cordasco Financial Network or Mercer Advisors. Client experiences vary. Successful outcomes are not guaranteed. Time now for the headlines from Smerconish.com, the newsletter. Godspeed to Damar Hamlin. I didn't watch it in real time like everybody else. I've now seen countless times the Buffalo Bills safety having to be revived after suffering cardiac arrest in that game last night in Cincinnati against the Bengals. So damn sad. 24 years old.
Unbelievable.
By all accounts, good guy, charitable guy, has a foundation, which ballooned, by the way, last night because of people wanting to do the right thing. There were just 6 minutes remaining in the first quarter when he made a tackle that looked relatively routine after a 13-yard catch that T. Higgins had made, got to his feet, and then collapsed. It's kind of hard to watch.
It's awful to watch.
Most amazing, I think, and I'm not being dismissive of this life-threatening injury that he has sustained, but most amazing about it, because there have been other catastrophic injuries suffered in the course of football games, generally NFL games in particular, is that they stopped that play and postponed the remainder of the game. 1971, if you're looking for some trivia, sadly, was the last instance, October 24, 1971, Detroit Tigers Stadium. The Lions wide receiver Chuck Hughes became the only NFL player to die on the field during a game. Now, there was very little time left in that game, and they finished it. Hughes was 28. He suffered a fatal cardiac event late in the fourth quarter again against the Bears. He had just run a medium pass route as Detroit QB. Wow, this is really some throwback stuff and names. Greg Landry attempted to rally the Lions from a 28-23 deficit. Less than a minute remained in the game when Hughes collapsed on the 16-yard line of Chicago. Middle linebacker, fill in the blank at home, Dick Butkus. I remember we used to play Dick Butkus. I want to be Dick Butkus. Like Dick Butkus, big guy. 51, I think, was his number. Dick Butkus immediately and frantically signaled for help. The Lions medical staff raced onto the field. Hughes was inanimate. On Detroit's WJR-AM, play-by-play man Van Patrick speculated it appears to be some kind of neck injury. As the doctor began mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and chest pumping in full view of 54,000 fans, Patrick said, "This looks quite serious." They brought out a stretcher. The game continued. In the background of the broadcasts, an ambulance siren could be heard as Hughes was quickly taken to Henry Ford Hospital, pronounced dead less than 75 minutes later. My good friend Shane Inspector, TC, who you know,
yes,
and who writes occasionally for Smerconish.com, wrote a piece just in the last few days, wrote to me a personal note about this.
Does he know the rules?
He knows the rules. He said there was a moment last night when word was they were going to take a 5-minute break and resume.
Jim Buck said that on air. That's where that started.
But that got shut down pretty damn quick.
Really fast.
Whether it was shut down by the Bills players or all the players or the coaches, we're going to learn later. But it doesn't matter who said no. What matters is that no was said. The NFL, here's the observation now of my good friend. The NFL may have turned a corner last night and may have become a players' league.
Wow.
If so, that portends major changes Stopping a game for the humanity of the moment may become part of the game. It may trickle down to other football leagues, college, high school, and across other sports. It may also usher in a more guaranteed contract, better separation and disability pay, and a reordering of the economic relationships. This may be the moment when the NFL became a players' league.
Wow. Yeah, the word now is that, according to the players and the coaches on both teams, that it was never, ever talked about going back to play. Yeah. Absolutely not, and just not in the realm of possibility. But too traumatic. Just such a traumatic event.
Kind of amazing that it's not unique the way many were initially taught. Oh, this has never happened. But there have been plenty of Darryl Singley. I mean, comes to my mind. I'm sure everybody who's followed the NFL for a period of years has an instance that they remember of some really serious injury taking place. But it's the first time that I recall a game being stopped.
Yeah.
And appropriately so.
Appropriately
so. Okay, big day in Washington today. Kevin McCarthy, the make or break moment in terms of his run for House Speaker. Kind of interesting that he's already moved into the office, but doesn't have the gig. I don't know how it ends. I feel confident in making only one prediction, and that is that he does not get there on the first ballot because he can afford to lose 4. I think everybody who listens to this program and pays attention to things that I have to say is already somewhat dialed in on the mathematics of Kevin McCarthy and whether he'll be Speaker. He can afford to lose 4. There are 5 hardcore think Matt Gaetzes who are saying we are never Kevins. I can't imagine that they do, even though they were all spending time with Kevin McCarthy yesterday, I can't imagine that they do an about face in time for that first ballot. I mean, they would have no credibility if they were, I'm never voting for Kevin McCarthy.
Okay,
and
now I
then
am.
all of a sudden they are, and what did you take?
But what else has to happen for them to change their vote?
Well, he's already made
all
significant
the concessions.
In terms of how easily he could be tossed out if he were the Speaker.
Anytime. You 5 want me out, I'm out.
So I don't see how they do a turn sufficient that he wins on the first ballot, which then sets the stage for a multi-ballot contest that could go first time in 100 years that this could go on for a while. So where it ends, I don't know. You know, one of my favorite lines, politically speaking, you can't beat somebody with nobody. Who you got? It seems like the guy, and I said this on CNN. Right. I wet my beak a little yesterday on CNN.
I wish I had known that. I would have watched you.
Really?
Yeah.
Just to get sort of back in the zone.
And it was on McCarthy.
And it was on Kevin McCarthy. And I was asked by Poppy Harlow and Don Lemon, okay, who? And I said, Steve Scalise seems to be the natural. And he's walking this tightrope.
Oh, boy, is he ever. Like this, creeping along.
Where
he's
not,
nothing to see
he's
here.
not taking on Kevin McCarthy.
Only if Kevin steps down. Only if Kevin McCarthy steps down. I'm not stepping in. Only if you need me.
I don't have great insight.
Yeah.
I don't have great insight. I just have, hopefully, some common sense. And it seems to me like Kevin McCarthy is still in the strongest position, but he's not going to get there right away. What other headlines do you like from Smerconish.com, the newsletter?
All right, so there's a lot going on, as you can see. I think there are a lot of lists. Do you want to go to some of the lists?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about Roger Stone's best?
Definitely start
list?
there, please.
Okay.
Definitely.
So,
remind everybody.
Why are you so enthusiastic
you know
about
why
this?
I'm enthusiastic.
I'm just asking you.
I should have dressed even more appropriately for today.
Unbelievable. Okay, so every year, Roger Stone puts out his best dressed list.
Yes, Roger Stone.
Yes, that Roger Stone. Here's the lead.
By the way, TC, I've told the story before. I remember being in his pied-à-terre in Manhattan. I don't think he has it any longer. And he had 2,000 ties on the wall. 2,000 ties.
How are they hung up?
He had sort of a bar system.
Right.
And they would be draped. It was just ties
so you
everywhere.
Could see them.
You could see. Of course. You got to be able to pick out a tie.
I didn't know if they were sideways. And so he would just know I know that
rolled
one.
up?
Yeah.
No, they were all displayed and hung on bars.
On this New Year's Day, we returned to our tradition, and for the 14th year, 14, I had no idea,
yes.
I post my international best and worst dress list. I undertook this tradition when the late Mr. Blackwell, a Hollywood columnist who produced his own list every year for 48 years, passed away in 2008. I published no list in 2020 because I was gagged from all public content by a federal judge, and no list for 2021 because my wife had been diagnosed with cancer, with which I'm happy to report she's in total remission. So, with 2 years missing, he is on the 14th year of his international best and worst dress list. So it's
very nonpartisan. I mean, Ted Kennedy made the list for many, many years. And as you'll see when you get to some of those who are on this year's list. But go ahead. I don't want to start.
So first he goes through the Lifetime Achievement Awards.
Lifetime Achievement.
So Larry Kudlow.
Let's just stop. Well-dressed guy, right?
Very
Kudlow.
Natalie dressed.
Yeah, in a classic Wall Street fashion.
Correct, yes. Audrey Gelman.
Who is Audrey Gelman?
No idea. Shannon Sharp, male.
Okay.
Yes. And Josh Mankiewicz.
Right.
So that's the Lifetime Achievement Awards. Now let's go on to the best dress list.
Wait. What are you doing to me here?
What?
Those are this year's Lifetime Achievement Award recognees.
Correct.
I'm a Lifetime Achievement recipient.
Right.
Well, when are you going to get to that?
You already won that. Why do we have to make mention of that?
Let me pick up the reporting. In past years, White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow, CNN's Mike Smerconish, presidential daughter Ivanka Trump, NBC's Josh Mankiewicz, CBS Sports' Shannon Sharp, rocker Mark Ronson, New York PR whiz Audrey Gelman, and Pennsylvania Politico, good friend of mine, Gordon Woodrow, all graced our best dressed list for multiple years, ultimately graduating to our Lifetime Achievement category. I have a Lifetime Achievement Award from Roger Stone.
Does this mean that every year when we talk about the Roger Stone list, we have to mention your Lifetime
Of
Achievement Award?
course. It's a lifetime achievement.
I literally on purpose didn't mention it to see if you would.
Oh, was there any risk that I wouldn't? Now I'm kind of looking at how I'm dressed today.
Well, you're like casual best dressed.
I'm in my Christmas from Mom sweater.
I do see some cashmere over there.
Yeah,
yeah. You look
that was Mom's.
You look like textural and beigey over there.
I think that's a good thing. Yeah, I'm on Roger's Lifetime Achievement list. Okay. Jesus. Okay, let's talk about who's on the list this year.
So wait, I just need to back up a little bit. So in 2024, when we talk about Roger Stone's list, is the first thing that we have.
Of course, it's a lifetime achievement. It's like the Academy has recognized me.
Right, but there are new Lifetime Achievement members every year.
And you mentioned that it's like you mentioned who's coming into Canton, Ohio in the NFL Hall of Fame, and you mention all the inductees who are already there, and I'll be sitting on the stage because I've already been inducted. I'm like Gail Sayers.
Okay.
I'm sitting there with my Lifetime Achievement Award.
Ooh, okay. Ooh, okay. All right, great.
Joe Biden makes the list.
And Melania Trump. I think that the first two of his best dress list are Melania Trump and Joe Biden.
Yes. He says, I know I'm going to take a lot of crap for it, but the president's selection of neckwear is impeccable and always has been, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Can I jump to the worst dressed, or do you want to go through any? Well, I thought.
Well, no, one more. I want to say something about one more on the best dressed. Okay, Jennifer Coolidge.
Yes.
Jennifer Coolidge is an actress who knows exactly what she looks good in and exactly how much cleavage is enough. The woman has sass. Don't believe me? Check it out. I enjoyed over break this season of White Lotus.
Did you?
I have one episode left.
Oh my. So
and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And I'm thoroughly enjoying it because I think she's great.
She is
I don't know.
riot.
I don't know how much of what Jennifer Coolidge on White Lotus does is acting or just her physical presence is such that she doesn't even need to act. Because you're so taken with her, at least I am.
She's very compelling.
And I also love Michael Imperioli, who was Christopher Moltisanti in The Sopranos, and you've got oh God, I have a mental block now. F. Murray Abraham. So you've got 3 generations. Have you watched it all?
I watched the first season.
Oh God, you've got to see this because it's a grandfather, son, grandson triumvirate in White Lotus this season, and they're terrific. And Michael Imperioli, Christopher,
where is he?
Is the middle.
The middle.
The middle. So F. Murray Abraham, and you know him from Home. Anyway, I'm off on a tangent. I love Jennifer Coolidge.
Yes.
I love Jennifer Coolidge. Worst dressed.
Okay, so the very top of the worst dressed list is John Fetterman.
Of course.
The write-up, the New York Times said he was one of the 91 most stylish people in America. Let's just say the old gray lady isn't what she used to be. Fetterman has a uniform of a dark hoodie and cargo pants. He dresses like a skateboarder. The cowl of the hoodie does hide an odd growth on his neck. A very strange man. Not stylish in any way.
And then also on the list, he puts the First Lady.
He does, and he says that she should never look dowdy. Sadly, Dr. Jill's sartorial choices are not as good as her husband's. There's some very strange picture, the next one.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Hard to translate to radio.
Correct.
Vladimir Zelensky also on the worst dressed list. Roger says, hey, if you're coming to pick up $100 billion, put on a suit. And who could argue with Samuel Bankman-Fried also making Roger's list? Steve Bannon as well. Anyway, it's fun stuff. It's posted at Smerconish.com. But unlike TC, please don't gloss over the recognees for those who have received recognition for, let me say it more clearly, for lifetime achievement.
And we'll do it again next year.
You're damn right we will. Rolling Stone, the 200 greatest singers of all time. I know they put a list like this out because it'll be by nature controversial, and then everybody gets to argue about it, and then it causes everybody to talk about it.
Well, I must say, the first I heard of this was a big outpouring on Instagram from Celine Dion fans saying, like, are you kidding me? That she is like has the best voice of all time. And she once in an earlier interview had said, like, she wasn't recognized on their list earlier. And she said something like, I will be fine not being recognized by them like this for the rest of my life because I'm selling more albums than everybody.
Okay.
So it was that kind of attitude.
Also not on the list.
Yeah.
Not making the cut. Celine Dion, as you referenced. The pride of Doylestown, Pennsylvania, even if she doesn't remember it that way, Pink.
Yep.
Justin Bieber, Jennifer Hudson, Janet Jackson, Tony Bennett. How do you not put Tony Bennett on the list? Madonna, Nat King Cole, Dionne Warwick, and more. Who made the cut? I'll just give you the top 5. Mariah Carey, Billie Holiday, Sam Cooke, Whitney Houston. Coming in at number 1, Aretha Franklin.
Their write-up of it said, before you start scrolling and commenting, keep in mind this is the greatest singers list, not the greatest voices list.
Yeah.
Talent is impressive. Genius is transcendent. So they were trying to nip all this in the bud.
I know, but I wouldn't have Sinatra at 19. Sinatra for me would be top 5.
Right.
And I'm a Bob Dylan fan, but by their definition of what is a singer, I wouldn't have Dylan coming in at number 15.
That's interesting.
So interesting stuff.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to be in the room where that happened.
Okay. Best singers, best dressed. Here's another one that made the cut at Smerconish.com today, and something that I've followed for a long, long time. U.S. News and World Report now saying they're going to redo the way in which they rank law schools because there was such blowback this year. So many jumped out and said, we're not going to provide our data any longer because we don't like the way in which U.S. News and World Report is doing it. U.S. News and World Report now revamping their criteria and trying to stay relevant. The story from Reuters, U.S. News and World Report revamping some elements of its law school ranking, capitulating to pressure after deans at more than a dozen top law schools publicly challenged the value of the closely watched list. So now they're going to put greater value on how many of your graduates go into public service work. My beef is that this forces the whole law school application process to be such a numbers game as it does for the whole undergraduate experience. I'm happy when U.S. News has less power from these rankings because I really think it becomes destructive. It'll be interesting to see whether the changes that they're making hold on to the law schools who've abandoned them. Bottom line, TC, is this. In the last 30 years, the time period that I've paid attention to this, you've got the same 14 or 15, I'll stick with law schools just by illustration. Sure. The same 14 or 15 dominate almost in the exact same order every year. Okay. And that just can't be the case. It just can't be the case. So that's there as well.
One more before we go, and that is
please.
A really interesting LA Times piece on scientists using psychedelics to treat alcohol and drug disorders. We've talked about it here before, but I think this is really interesting going into the new year. There are so many that are prohibited under federal law. that the Drug Enforcement Administration has said, quote, no currently accepted medical use, but they're looking at them closely and saying maybe they could help with addiction disorders and depression.
Michael Pollan's books have been significant in reorienting a lot of people's thinking about this. I remember being on Bill Maher years ago, and Michael Pollan was, I think he was like the mid-show guest when they had one, and our sons were like so impressed that Michael Pollan was on Bill Maher the night I was on Bill Maher. I had no idea who Michael Pollan was until that night.
Yeah.
I did go back and read some of the books, I should say. But the FDA has deemed psilocybin a potential breakthrough therapy for treating depression, a designation that could fast-track the path to new pharmaceuticals. It's a fascinating issue. I'm really proud. Like, today's the first work day of the year. As you know, TC, the newsletter never stopped.
You never stop working.
Very proud of the fact that every day since we left the airways, Smerconish.com, the newsletter came out every single day and looked great.
Yep.
The mix today is really good stuff. It's the tragic NFL story. It's the Kevin McCarthy story. It's Admiral Stavridis's essay about what he's looking forward to on a global level in 2023, and a lot of other things that are sort of, if there were still daily newspapers we were all reading, they would be in the C or the D section, but they're worthy nonetheless. So go vote on today's poll question at Smerconish.com, where I am asking whether Americans have less ambition. And what put that thought in my head, as I've explained, it's the Wall Street Journal story that wrote about coworkers exhibiting less ambition. And I said, what the hell? Let's ask it about Americans generally. Are you becoming less ambitious? Answer the poll question at Smerconish.com today. We'll give you the result tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. See you soon.